my Oda, which is easier to pronounce. Today I'm going to present you about the current state and the research of influenza vaccination and how it can be applied to a common cold possible vaccine. So what is the common cold? First I want to address this question. Well, the common cold is a highly contagious virus. We all know, we all had it once in a while, sometimes more than a month. It's actually caused by over 200 different viruses. Science has identified 7 types of viruses families, including rhinoviruses, influenza viruses, coronaviruses, and multiple more. However, rhinoviruses cause a lot of the common cold. It's more likely when you get a common cold is due to rhinovirus. According to the National Health and Statistics, the common cold is responsible for 62 million of absence and cases, and 22 million of absence from school, and 20 million of absence from work. So it's a huge problem that we have nowadays. And here we have a picture of the common cold, and there are many viruses, and that's actually how the rhinoviruses look, and then all the symptoms. So actually a lot of people doesn't know that, but the virus doesn't cause the cough, the sneezing, or the fever. It's actually our own immune system fighting this virus that causes unpleasant symptoms. As an example, when we have nasal congestion, it's our body trying to actually accumulate virus in the mucus, and every time you cough or you sneeze, it's your body expelling all these viruses. Or another example could be fever, and it's when your body starts raising temperature for 2 main reasons. One is because when you raise your temperature, your body starts telling your immune system, hey, you need to produce more white blood cells that are actually cells for the immune system. Or 2 is trying to make the viruses uncomfortable. Nobody likes to live in a high temperature. Actually, viruses like to live in a comfortable environment. So when you have high temperature, they start actually producing. So here we see the nasal, and then we see the fever. So how relevant is rhinovirus? As I mentioned before, actually it causes about 60% of the colds. And it's responsible for the high peak in the season. You know, when it's fall and you have this and you don't know you have the flu, you have the cold, but so it could be that you have the rhinovirus. And you may think, okay, why we don't have a vaccine for the rhinovirus? And a lot of people have questioned this, especially science. But we have 2 main reasons why we cannot have a vaccine. One of them is because there are over 100 types of rhinoviruses, and they're actually quite small. They're about 30 nanometers. So try to imagine. Regular viruses are about 200 to 400 nanometers, and the rhinovirus is 30 nanometers. So it's like you trying to check a beach ball, and then you are thinking, okay, I'm just going to say what pathway it's going to take. Instead, you have to trace a marble. In this case, the rhinovirus will be the marble. It's quite small, that we don't know what cells it targets in our body, what pathways it takes. So we don't have a lot of information, plus they mutate quite a lot. So why we have not developed a common cold vaccine? Well, first in order to address this question, I need to explain what is a vaccine. Well, vaccine is the most effective way that we have to fight viruses. Let's remember that viruses are not alive. They have DNA, that means they have genetic material, or they have RNA, which either. And a vaccine works by injecting a weak or dead virus into your body. And it kind of introduces this virus, so your body can start making antibodies, and your immune system knows how to fight this virus when you actually encounter with it. So it's kind of like a training. It's like a boot camp for your immune system. And why we have not developed a common cold vaccine? Well, another thing is how the virus attack our body. Since they're not alive, the way they do it is that they hijack our cells. They actually target specific cells. Like HIV targets T cells, that's our immune system. Ebola targets all your immune cells. We don't know quite how all the common cold virus attacks our cells, so that's one issue that we have nowadays. And the way they do it is they get to the nucleus, they hijack the nucleus, and they start mass producing this copy of genetic material. And this genetic material is kind of like an instruction book. It tells us what way to go, how to attack, which cells to target, and it's quite small, it's not too long. The only thing that we have right now to fight the cold is actually just over-the-counter medication. We can only help with the symptoms so you don't feel too nausea or coughing and all that. We actually don't have a cure. We just minimize our symptoms. So what we have actually as an issue are 4 things. We have the extensive number of viruses. We say it's over 200. We have the high rate of infection. It's highly contagious. Virus mutate. Every time you get infected, they mutate more. And side effects of a possible vaccine. So every time you get contagious infected by a virus, this virus has a chance to mutate. So by this mean, here we see they have a genetic material. There are 2 types of viruses. Here we have a genetic material, here we have a genetic material, and we say that is like a book. And if this book mutates and changes a little bit, we could have something like this. This is a silly example, but imagine that there are different ways your body can attack, the virus can attack. So your body says, I'm gonna look red, and I'm gonna attack and I'm gonna target your immune system cells. So we create a vaccine and says, okay, let's create an antibody that's gonna be for the virus that looks red and attacks that cells. But your virus through time, maybe 3 months, a whole year, mutates and now can say, well, you know what? I can either look a different way. Now maybe I don't have a glycoprotein, maybe I have another ways I can present myself. Or maybe can target other cells. And your body doesn't know what to do in that case. So now we need to create new virus, new antibodies. So that means we need to release another vaccine for that looking virus. So now if we multiply this for the 200 viruses, it's going to be quite a lot. We'll be developing vaccines quite often. So rate of distribution. So as we say virus mutate, I have an example here where we see that. So we see here that we have the OG, the rhinovirus is this example. And then we have, it's going to mutate, maybe it's going to give one rhinovirus and it's going to give another one. This is going to mutate to give more rhinoviruses with different strains and going to mutate to give more and more and so on. So it's a never-ending war with these viruses. That's why they're so hard to actually fight back. So that's one problem that we have, but let's remember that we are able to do this with the flu vaccine. Every year we receive a flu shot. Every season, and actually that flu shot contains the new version of the virus. Sometimes people, the CDC travels to other countries like Japan, China, and they start looking at the virus that maybe by fall is gonna come and it's gonna attack us. So they start releasing this. What another problem? And that means that we will have a lot of vaccines. At least once a month we'll be releasing one vaccine. Nobody wants to take a vaccine every year. Every month. People that don't like vaccines. So another thing will be side effects. As I mentioned before, every time we have a vaccine, we take a part of the virus and our immune system is going to do training. That means it has to release some side effects, fever, and coughing, in order to know how to fight this virus. People doesn't like to have side effects. People hate, sometimes people blame vaccines. That's why a lot of people doesn't take the flu shot. I have taken myself the flu shot and I have some fever or some coughing and it's unpleasant. But we can make it happen. Okay, so we have been able to develop successful vaccines. As an example, we have polio, we have other vaccines here, the blue ones. The blue ones are all the vaccines that we have able to cure actually the virus. The oranges, the red one is the ones that we have not a vaccine or any kind of treatment for it, and the yellow ones are that we have to continue to be developing. So we can do it. We can put an effort into do it and maybe create something that is there, but why we have not done it? Well, there are actually a lot of causes, and the main reason is for money. Because in order to develop a vaccine, it takes about $2 billion just before releasing it. Then after you have to cover costs for the FDA and pass all the controls. And actually vaccines only make 5% of pharmaceutical in the pharmaceutical industry. So it's not a profit for them to create a vaccine. And in mind you have to create and release a vaccine constantly, it's not a good money. But I believe that we could do and overcome all the challenges and create a successful vaccine for the common cold that will be practical. Thank you, and questions?
How does the flu vary from one strain to another? Is it like the DNA sequences changed or something?
Yes, actually the DNA sequence that changed. They don't, a lot of the flu virus that have been linked, they don't have DNA, they actually have RNA.
Oh, interesting.
So maybe something they have in common. Actually only one strand has a DNA, the rest only have RNA.
Okay, cool. Do you know how long that strand is out of curiosity?
No, they actually vary. Like rhinoviruses, it's really small, so it doesn't have big DNA, but panavirus, it's quite big. Actually, it's like 400 nanometers in diameter. So.
Okay, interesting.
So with the blue illnesses that we have found a vaccine for, are you saying that those ones do not mutate then?
They do mutate, but we were able to find a cure that our body can actually eradicate them quite well. And the other thing is that a lot of these viruses, we don't see them anymore in our bases. We kind of just get rid of them all. Like right now, we don't see polio. Too much people don't have polio. And you know, when we see chickenpox, they just kind of do quarantine. They make sure the virus doesn't go out. Because actually, virus mutate. The more you get, the more the virus gets spread, the more it's likely to mutate. Because they can make more mistakes when they're replicating the DNA. They can make more mistakes, and that actually those mistakes benefit them because it makes them change and they can target our cells.
Are there other examples in the red there of viruses that the reason why we haven't cured them is because they mutate as fast as the rhinovirus?
No, actually, they're quite, because they're actually, I mean, I love virus, but these viruses are so smart. They actually target our immune cells. They actually target what we help them to fight. As an example for Ebola, it targets the whole immune system cells so that your body decides to kill itself instead of propagate the virus. It's like a kamikaze.
Yeah.
It says, okay, you know what? I'm not able to fight this virus. It hijacked my entire system. It's kind of like attacking the White House. So they say, you know what? Disconnect everything. So. Yeah.
And when you say they're not alive, but they reproduce themselves and they have DNA, what makes them not alive?
You know, they are not able to reproduce themselves if they're not in a host cells. They actually cannot reproduce themselves. They need someone else. Yeah. Any other questions? Thank you so much.